Hello, Anime Addicts. As we come to the end of February, I want to thank everyone that has helped support the podcast this year. Thanks to you, it helps with the cost of keeping this ship sailing, and we truly appreciate it. In an effort to share those good vibes, for the first 3 months of 2021, we will be donating 50% of all incremental support we receive to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. If you want to help out this cause or just help us keep the lights on, we cordially invite you to visit aaapodcast.com or our Patreon to chip in or support us however you see fit. We truly appreciate it. And with that, let's get this podcast going.
何よ、アニメアディクツアノニマスのライブブロードキャストやってるって言ってるでしょ。聞きなさいよね。You are listening to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at aaapodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 564 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. My name is Mason, but you can call me Angelica because I am the queen of running this rugrat ship of the youth as we take over the podcast once and for all from the tyranny of Mitsugi and his old man wisdom and claim the ship for ourselves. So I am running the show today, so all mistakes, all problems, blame it on me, because I am going to drive this into the ground. But with me, to help me out, is the fantabulous Caroline. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm so happy to be a part of this coup d'etat today.
Excellent.
It's been a blast so far. I hope that Mason can steer the ship into a beautiful ocean and hopefully not to the bottom of it.
Excellent. Well, we will find out how that goes. So if you're watching this live on Twitch, where we stream live every Sunday at 5 p.m. EST, you will see all the goofs and guffaws and mess-ups that I have along the way. If you're listening to the audio version, I'll try to slip in some mistakes for you as well, so you can get the full experience. But today, in addition to making your anime addiction worse, actually, that's about all we're going to do today, because we have a lot of shows to talk about. We will be doing our typical What Have We Been Watching segment, where we run through all the shows, or at least most of them, that we've been watching over the past couple of weeks, and maybe share some recommendations with you. We will also be doing a review of Adachi to Shimamura, and don't forget, before we head on, check out our website, aaapodcast.com. You can join the Discord, and most importantly at the moment, you can take place in our listener's choice for our Winter 2021 show for us to review. So head on over there. Big list, lots of things, lots of links. Anything else before we kick this off?
No, I think we're good, Captain.
Excellent. How's the audio sounding on internet, folks? No one's yelling at us yet, so that's probably a good sign. Well, with that, let's.
Yep, everything looks to be pretty good. People are saying hi.
Excellent. Audio's great. Well, let's.
Also, that we never start on time, so there's a rise.
We're changing that. Well, this is the new era, boys. Strap in. Here we go.
大ニュースです。It's time for big news of the week.
Every button I press, I'm just waiting for this to blow up. So, with that, my big news of the week is the final Evangelion film has been listed online briefly as 154 minutes long, which is, man, are you ready for 2.5 hours of pain? I think I am, because it's been a long time coming. The first 3 movies of the series, the rebuilds I should say, were all between 95 and 112 minutes, so this is substantially longer, up there with some of the longest anime films ever released. The longest Ghibli film is The Tale of Princess Kaguya at 137 minutes. Kyoto's The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya was 162 minutes, so a little bit longer than this. And the longest anime film I believe that I've ever seen is MAPPA's extended edition of In This Corner of the and Other Corners of the World at 168 minutes. So, man, what's the longest anime film you've ever seen, Caroline? Do you know?
I have seen In This Corner of the World. I can't remember exactly. Well, you mentioned how long it was, but it wasn't. You said it was an extended version you
Yeah,
saw?
so I think the regular in this corner is like 130 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really seen any extremely long movies that I know of. Um, yeah, I can't exactly remember, but if in this corner of the world the regular version is pretty long, I guess that one.
Yeah, it's still a little long. What's more interesting, though, in my mind, more than even the Evangelion film being, almost 2.5 hours, is that it's got the rating of a G. Which, if you've ever
Are you
seen
serious?
any Evangelion film, you'll know that is not quite suitable material for the youths, even youther than we are, if that's even a word, which it's not. And to be fair, the ARIN system of rating movies, which is different than the MPAA system that North America uses, is a little bit different. They have 4 ratings, which start at G, so this is still general audience, everyone's allowed in, which I can guarantee you this film is hopefully not going to be that. But to be fair, also, all the other Eva films were, so who knows what they're smoking over there. They also have PG-12, which means anyone can still get in, but people under 12 should probably make sure their parents are okay with it. And then the 2 restricted ratings they have is R15 and R18, which is more strictly enforced at the movie theater. So, interesting to note, the recently released Demon Slayer movie is PG-12, so more violent than this. And I actually didn't even know the new Demon Slayer movie is rated R in the United States. So I have
What?
no idea what the
That
discrepancy
makes no
is.
sense.
Maybe it's just really bloody. I don't. Who knows? And maybe just United States just flag everything as from overseas as being. I don't even know. But I thought that was an interesting thing to bring up. And obviously, all this rating is subjective. Everyone has to decide for themselves what's right for them or their children. But yeah, wild G rating. What a year.
Yeah, it's so strange. The system for judging the ratings on movies and such, I feel like it's so ambiguous, you know? Even so, I've rarely see any movies that are rated G. They're usually at least PG. Um, so the fact that I mean, did it just get like swept under the rug? They just kind of forgot about it. And they were like, oh,
I don't know. I mean, like the new
they just
Natsume
forgot.
Yujincho movie is like PG-12 and PG-13 in the States. So like clearly they have some strict. It's not like everyone's just skating by with a G rating, but I'm sure Ano just like bribed everyone, and they're just like, man, we've had so much trouble getting this film out. Just give us. We need to recoup some of these losses. Let the toddlers in. Let the preschoolers. Let them all in. They need to see this.
Yeah, honestly, I love how they're just gambling on the mental the mental effects that this movie could possibly have on children.
Yeah, wild. So that was my big news. More interesting than otherwise. But speaking of Demon Slayer,
Yes, and actually you're the one who just gave this to me. I'm like, "Hey, good. I don't have to keep searching for something to talk about." So Kimetsu no Yaiba, the newest season 2, will be out before the end of the year. It is known as the Entertainment District arc, or Yukakuhen. So it is the sequel to the movie that we haven't seen yet. Yay! So obviously there have not been any updates on whether this. I feel like they should have announced the release of the movie before they released the announce of the second season, but maybe.
I
Well,
mean,
we
I'm
don't really matter.
I'm sure it was announced in Japan. It's not like you're not gonna not keep that news from coming to the United States or anywhere else. But who cares if they haven't seen the film yet?
Yeah, I mean, if this film does not legally come out before the second season, I will, without much guilt in my heart, find it somewhere.
Get that 240p cam rip going and just be like, this is the only way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sorry. I try to make sure that I watch things legally, but I have to watch this movie where I watch season 2. I did watch the trailer. It's about a minute long and it really doesn't reveal much. I thought it was actually a teaser trailer, but it says the official trailer, so I don't
Hmm.
know. But it certainly looks as good as the first season, even though it doesn't really show exactly what's going to happen in it, which is fine. Um, the last volume of the manga came out in December, so that ended the series with like 23 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
The first season covered the first 6 volumes, and the movie covered the 7th and the 8th. So based on that, we can probably expect up to a season 3 and maybe another movie.
Yeah,
Because I feel like
that makes
if
sense.
they'd already done one movie, they might even just conclude the last part of the series with a movie. I would see that happening.
Nah, just give us 2 more seasons, and that will be excellent. Well, actually, season 1 was 24 episodes, right? It was a 2 core length show.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Um,
I guess, yeah,
I
maybe
guess.
50 more episodes of this left.
Yeah. It
So,
is pretty surprising though how quickly they finished up the manga considering how popular it became so recently.
I
But
mean, I'm
maybe it's for the
glad.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tend to think that shows, the more they drag on, cough, cough, we're on episode 564, whatever. I'm kidding. Get to the point already. And I like that about Demon Slayer. And as long as it still looks as good as it has, I will keep on watching it because it is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think the second season will be as good as the first?
I would probably need to see the movie to judge that.
True. But I've heard a lot of great things from this arc. I have no idea what it's about, but people are like, "Oh my god, they're doing the entertainment district arc."
I I think the biggest issues a lot of us had with season 1 were more not in like the plot or the pacing, but just in some of the character traits. So I think it
Are
comes down
you
to
talking
how
about
prevalent maybe those characters evolve, or if they're more static, they might have a lot of the same issues. So I'm not gonna say anything. I might scream something out, but I'm not gonna imply anybody.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about Nezuko here, right?
Yeah, yeah. Get her out of that box. That's she needs to see the world.
Yeah, I hope that she actually does end up being a little bit more of a I don't, like she's a nice character and I like her, but I hope that she grows within
She's
the next season.
there's no personality to her. She is
She's so cute though.
she can also have opinions and thoughts. Eh, never mind. Forget it. She's just there for the biting.
She does cool things sometimes when she's not in a box or sleeping.
Occasionally. But there's like really no like volition to her drive. It's always like protect or defend or escape. Like there's no, I don't know, depth. I need
People are
more inner
screaming free
workings.
Nezuko 2021.
Yes. Well, those were two important announcements, I think. I think those were good news. And with that,
Yeah.
let's jump to our main topic, which is the "What Have We Been Watching" segment. And
hmm
how much have you watched? Have you watched a whole lot?
I watched a whole lot like a few weeks ago.
Okay, okay.
So I'm mostly drawing from there. I mean, I have been watching just a little bit, but I feel like a lot of my time this week was taken up by a review. So obviously we will be talking about that later on in full depth. And of course, watching things for Anime Club, which we talked in full depth in Anime Club. So um, but I guess I'll start off with saying that I watched up to episode 9 of of the Attack on Titan final season,
Okay.
and it is pretty good. The thing is that I've read the manga up to around this point. So after I think episode 10, I'll still know like where we're at. And then I think the episode after that is all new stuff to me. But yeah, it's been pretty good. And it's so strange to think that to compare the first season to this final season and what the plot is now, it is so crazy.
Hmm. Yeah,
The difference.
I have still held off from this season. I know it'll be best as a binge, and just ignore the hype for now and just let it all come to me once it's finished. So I'm very excited to get to that point. I
How
really
far have you watched?
I watched all 3 seasons, 1 through 3, part 2, whatever it is. So I've watched everything before season 4, including all the
How
OVAs and side stuff.
how are you keeping yourself from getting into what is the finale, the final season?
Because I it's so much better as a binge watch. I know we talked a little bit in Hobby Addicts. You're not much of a binge watcher, but I feel like Attack on Titan is so primed for that kind of delivery and input that I don't know. I just think it'll be better that way. And there's probably some like plot points that I need to refresh myself on, and doing that week to week, I don't want to miss any of those juicy details because despite it being a big action romp, there is a lot of inner workings and behind the scenes and more depth to the stuff going on that I don't want to forget that from week to week.
Okay, so at this point, you don't know what's beyond the sea. What do you think is beyond the sea?
Hopefully Chuck E. Cheese's and Toys R Us, because we don't have them anymore over here. So I'm a little sad about that. But I have no anticipation. Like I don't even know if I'm anticipating or excited for season 4. Like I was so down and out of the series after season 2 that season 3 I didn't have expectations and it blew me out of the water. So I'm kind of going into season 4 just like everyone's saying it's good and I don't believe them. I'm sure it's overhyped. I'm sure it's not that good. And now I'm tricking myself into lowering my expectations again so that I can be once again pleasantly surprised.
I will say that the first couple episodes aren't at the top of the list of the episodes that came out of the season, but they are kind of building up to what are really great episodes.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. That's and
Okay.
that's the thing. You got that build up where when you're watching it week to week, there's an episode of build up and it doesn't deliver that big moment because that's the next episode and you're like, "Well, that was a wasted week or that episode was more of a letdown instead of it fulfilling the role it had to build expectations." So, I don't know. That's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it and we'll see if I can wait another 8 weeks or whatever it is.
Now, I will ask you this. Who do you predict will die in this season?
Aaron, is he dead yet?
No, he's not
Okay.
dead.
I think he's going to die.
That's not like yeah, we kind of yeah, I can see that happening.
For the record,
Eventually,
I have read
yes.
nothing. I know nothing. This is not spoilers in any way. This is my predictions for who has not seen any of season 4. So,
I mean, based on the fact that I don't know if this is a spoiler for anyone that's listening or even you. I think that they talked about it in season 3, but there is kind of a what's it called? An expiration of the lives that are able to turn into titans. So I think it's like 13 years from the point of gaining one of the 9 titans is when that person is going to die. So based on that, Aaron is eventually going to die. I don't know if they get around this curse or whatever it is. I don't even know if it's like a true, like, this is exactly what happens kind of thing, or is it just like a superstition?
mm-hmm.
But yeah, based on that, and also the fact that he is such an angsty character. And I don't see him surviving beyond the plot. Yeah, I can see him kind of dying at
There
some
we
point.
go. That's what my brain's telling me on this on the spot question. But I'm
Yeah.
sure we will probably have a special Attack on Titan concluding podcast thing once we know if this is actually the end or maybe we'll have a movie or who knows what's coming. So final
Mhm.
season part 2, you never know. So I will jump into the first thing I watched, which is The Wasteful Days of High School Girls. Have you ever seen this, heard about it, know anything about it?
I think I've heard of the Wasteful Days of High School Boys. Is that like a spin-off,
It
or am I
is
wrong?
not in any way related to this.
What?
Very
It's an actual
similar.
show that's separate.
Yes, very separate show, very similar style though, where a group of people, obviously spoilers in this one, high school girls instead of boys, just pretty much each episode starts with this trio led by a character nicknamed Baka for idiot, and boy does she live up to that title. She kind of comes on screen, she goes to her friends and says, "Hey, can I say something amazing right now?" And they say no, and then she says something very stupid, and then the episode just launches off into a bunch of gags and skits, and it is, I thought it was actually really funny. I liked it more than Wasteful Days of High School Boys, so if you like that show, I recommend checking this one out. I don't think it's for everyone's taste. The comedy is a little jarring and all over the place. It's very scatterbrained, like myself this episode. But I recommend everyone at least watch the opening for Wasteful Days of High School Girls. It is so catchy, so visually distinctive and stylish, and it's done by Studio Passion, which I normally don't enjoy their works, but I actually kind of enjoyed this one a bit. So if you want a fun comedy, which is kind of the theme of this segment for me, I watch a lot of dumb comedies. I enjoyed this one overall. So if you were on the fence, I'd say give it a shot.
And absolutely no connection to High School Boys whatsoever.
No connection.
Like, not even the manga creator.
I don't think so.
That is so strange.
It's
I feel like there is like a copyright issue right there.
maybe, but I could be completely off base. But you don't need at least to watch one to see the other. So I'd say give this one a shot first.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
There you go. Watch the OP.
Let's see. Up next, I don't really have a lot to say about this one, but I have watched the first episode of the second season of the Quintessential Quintuplets because honestly, I kind of like the first season. It was okay. Not exactly my favorite show, but definitely was interested in finishing the show. I think the second season's going to wrap everything up. The main gripe that I've had with the first episode, though, is that they changed the main character's eye color
Oh
to
no.
yellow.
Were
I
they going for
heard
the blue and yellow
no.
heterochrome?
That is funny though. I think that in the original manga, his eyes are supposed to be that color, like in the colored pages, but they changed them to blue in the first season for some reason. But honestly, blue is a heck of a lot better than yellow. And it was so jarring too, because I'm like, there's something different about this character. And why does he look weird now? And I realized it's because he changed the eye color from blue to yellow. It's just
It's kind of like Haikyuu in their last season where they changed the art style to more accurately represent how they are drawn in the manga, and it just
I've never
is
seen
a
Haikyuu,
shift.
actually.
It's a little like that. Or like in
But yeah,
Berserk, where they went from pretty passable art to yeah, I'm not gonna even no, that never existed. I forgot. Sorry, my bad. Berserk always great.
that's all you need to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I only watched the first episode of the second season. And unfortunately, hasn't grabbed me in the same way the first season did. Maybe I've gotten my fill of it from the first season, and the second season just isn't enough to get me excited for it at all. I don't know. I might finish it up at some point. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So you can't bring up the show without then following up with your, I guess, ranking of the
Oh boy.
the candidates. Do you have those on hand, or do you at least have a prediction of who
Okay.
the end
Okay, so
relationship will be?
the end relationship is definitely hinted to be with, I think her name is Itsuki, the one with the red hair,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of like the main girl of the five, which I kind of hate because the thing is that she is the her character type is the only character type that wins in these relationships. So the question of who's it gonna be, it's obviously her, unless the manga creator just decided, I'm gonna switch it up. It's obviously her, but I'm gonna go with this one instead. I hope that happens because Itsuki's fine, but she's just so an overdone character with like these harem shows. So I don't know. So my favorite to win is Miku because she really likes she likes Futaro. So I'm like, yeah, go get it.
Oh my goodness, she
Go
likes
get
the
it.
main character.
Well, she's the only one
Wow.
that really treats him with any respect, you know? I mean, some of the other girls treat him with respect, kind of, but she's always been the most respectful, I think. And she's cute and I like her. So she's up first. Then I guess Nino, because she's pretty nice. Then the third is probably Yotsuba. But the thing is that she probably would be higher up on the list if I had seen more of her, which I think one of the episodes of season 2 does. So maybe if I've seen that episode, maybe she'd get higher on the list. Then it is a toss up between Itsuki and what was the girl with the pink hair? Or the pink tails.
I
Or did
watched
I get
one episode of this show. I can't help you out.
chat, help me. What's her name? Okay, so pigtails and the really, really rude one. I don't really like her, but I also don't want Itsuki to win. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh no. I think I got. Okay, so Ichika is the one with the short hair that I like. Nino is the actual pigtailed girls that I don't like. So it is Miku, Ichika, Yotsuba, Itsuki, and Nino. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Put it in stone. She's
Too
marked
many
her
names.
tablet. We'll see if that comes to pass.
We'll see.
My next show is the, I would say, very contentious show, Amagi Brilliant Park. Has quite notoriety both in the community and on this very podcast, where we had a very heated review of it back many moons ago. But this is done by Kyoto Animation, which is one of my all-time favorite studios, and I kind of just owe it to myself to watch all of their works one day because they're a great studio and I want to see everything that they've produced. And I would say definitely this is on the bottom end of their spectrum. Came out in 2014, directed by Yasuhiro Takimoto, who spent his too short career pretty much completely in Kyoto Animation. And sure, every studio has some duds. Who cares? And this show just, it had a lot of what makes Kyoto Animation great. It has a lot of that charm. It has those visual stylings, and it just goes above and beyond to present it in such a visual feast that it is great to look at. And that's really the only reason I kept watching it, because it tells the story of this know-it-all, stuck-up, narcissistic, essentially me in anime form, kind of forced to save this like failing amusement park with a bunch of magical creatures in it from being shut down and demolished and without a home. And it's fine. It's a fine show. I thought it was, when you kind of weigh the pros and the cons, it fell right in the middle of average. And I think people know within an episode or two if this is for them or not. It was a little too fan servicey for me. Just a lot of annoying characters, but at the same time, some really charming moments and a pretty satisfying ending. So I don't regret watching it. I'm glad that I just got a little bit more of Kyoto Animation's history, and it certainly was what it was. More importantly, though, because this kind of sent me down the beginning of a Kyoto Animation rabbit hole, I found I don't even know how to describe it, but this fantasy Shirobako hyper adorable 2-episode OVA called Baja's Studio, BAGA apostrophe S Studio. And really, I talked about each studio having duds, but what really matters in my mind with Kyoto Animation is kind of their workplace culture. And in Japan, there's a whole prevalence of problematic work environments, and everything I've ever read about Kyoto Animation is how much better theirs is. And this short called Baja's Studio kind of tells the story of this little hamster, weasel, guinea pig, probably guinea pig, let's go with guinea pig, named Baja, who lives in this kind of like romanticized version of Kyoto Animation Studio and just is adorable and makes friends with a duck and a cute fairy. And it's probably the sweetest, most heart-melting thing I've seen all year. It's so adorable. Is it more than just visual eye candy? Not really. Is it perhaps a skewed commercial to make you further endeared with the studio? Perhaps, but it succeeds at both. And if you just want 40 minutes of just beautiful, gorgeous, amazing visuals that just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, check out Baja's Studio. It's a fun time.
Wait, so it's about these 3 animals / creatures in an animation studio?
It's about this one animal in a animation studio who looks outside the window and sees this rubber ducky in like a little water fountain outside. He's like, "Oh, that's my buddy." And essentially this like neighborhood cat comes to like chew on this rubber ducky, and he's like, "That's my friend, you stop it, Meanie." And this like fantasy fairy lady from the show that the studio was making like grants him the power to like go on an adventure to save his rubber ducky friend. And it's exactly as sweet and like saccharine as I'm explaining it, but it is really cute and makes you feel good. So
wait, so is the rubber ducky actually like a sentient animal, or like a sentient toy, or is it like just a rubber ducky?
Yeah, it's just a rubber ducky, but with the power of magic, it becomes a squeaky compadre for his future shenanigans against the evil wizard who is the evil wizard from the show, once again, from the studio being made, who is in a perpetual war with this fairy character. There is no plot. It is not worth explaining. Just check it out. It's a joy.
It does sound pretty cute. So I have been trying to get back into My Hero Academia. I stopped right before the was it the cultural festival arc of the last season. I just kind of just stopped and did not move forward for a very long time, and I'm only just now getting back into it, and I can see why I stopped watching at the point where it's like the big climactic part of the season, and then the rest of the season is just slice of life stuff. So it's like, yeah, It's been hard, but I've only been watching it. I've only watched a couple episodes since, but I have to finish it in order to get to the newer season that's coming out at some point.
You gotta. And there's, I think it was like a short movie that came out recently. Recently being half a year
Yeah.
ago.
Well, I haven't seen any of the movies.
It's not a movie. I think it's like an extra thing after the end of the most recent arc. Or not
Like
arc, season.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
It's like an extended movie. I can look it up. I'm not going to even edit this keyboard clicking. You can all just enjoy it. My Academia. Oh,
Tell you
boy,
what, I
this
was
Wikipedia is
at
not
some
gonna help me.
point. At some point, I was going to go see the first movie that came out, but I had to dodge it because at first it was in college, and I was part of this anime club, and I brought up like maybe going to the next town over to go see the movie. And the only person that was interested in going was this guy who was interested in me, and I was definitely not interested in him. And actually, at the same time, I kind of double booked myself for that weekend, so I couldn't end up going. But I also did not make any
Strategy.
attempt to reschedule. Yeah, so I was really glad that I accidentally double booked myself. Otherwise, it would have been a date, and I did not want to go on
Oh,
a date with
no.
him.
We call that the plus please could you not strategy.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yikes.
guys, are you sure that none of you want to go with me?
So I was referring to two OVAs that came out in August of 2020 called the Make It, Do or Die Survival Training Part 1 and 2. So those kind of continue the story after the season 4. Yeah, season 4. You got more heroes to catch up on. Who's your favorite? Who's the best hero?
Like hero or hero student?
Hero student.
It's hard. It's really hard. Well, Izuku's just a little cinnamon roll. I love him. I've actually seen like YouTube translations of their My Hero Academia radio show that they do in between episodes. And it's between it's I think his name's Daiki, the voice actor for Izuku, and often it's Kaiju Yuki, and they're just adorable together, and I love them.
Is he the guy who talks to animals? Who am I thinking of?
No, who? Kaiju Yuki?
Yeah.
He's the voice actor for Todoroki.
Oh, you're just talking about the voice actors. I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's just between the two of them, and they're just talking to each other about being on the show and random things. Just man, if Izuku wasn't a cinnamon roll, then his voice actor is the cinnamon roll.
Who's your favorite hero? Hero student or hero teacher? And you're like, voice actor. Got it.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. Well, I mentioned I like him.
I know.
Other than that, it's so hard. There's just too many of them.
Fair enough.
Jiro's cool. And of course, Invisible Girl is best girl,
Of course, there you go. You got the right answer. Actually, I just realized the movie I'm going to be talking about today is just the headphone jack, whatever her name is.
Yeah, Jiro.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's pretty much in this movie, so got that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How are we doing on time? Ooh, let's do one show each.
So you want to go next then?
Yeah, I just need to decide which of these 7 shows is the most worth talking about. Let's do we want an obscure show that no one will like but is funny, or an obscure show that some people might like that is funny?
Let's go for the one that nobody likes.
Gotcha.
I'm interested.
Gotcha. So this is a movie called Dragon's Heaven. This is an old movie that is from the late 80s, but it's so unpolished and grainy that it looks like it's from the 70s, which is to say it looks super cool. The mech designs, the character designs are amazingly rad, and man, the animation is a tale of two stories. Sometimes it's really good and passable, and sometimes it's really bad. And just visually, it's amazing. But really, what makes this movie stand out is, first of all, it begins. If you've ever watched, let's just call them hentai. Sometimes they begin with a lot of text to just like give you the whole story before.
What?
So they don't actually need to tell you anything that's going on. And this, kind of like a Star Wars or something like that, begins with like just lots and lots of text at the very beginning that tells of these different planets at war with one another and these factions and yada yada yada. Who cares? After that, it goes into a 5-minute live action sequence where this like animatronic practical effect stop motion like combat robot out of Star Wars with like tons of fog machines and camera zoom ins that are like unnecessary with like wild camera pans and orchestral swells, all of which makes no sense. You just see this robot with all this flashing lights and dramatic things for 5 minutes with no narration, nothing. You don't know why you're looking at it, why you should care, but it is cool. And then all of a sudden it snaps to that aforementioned old school animation, which is, I don't know, like, then the movie itself, the actual like animated part, is only 25 minutes long. So after all this text, all this like live action robots, and you get 25 minutes of animation, which is sometimes laughable with how like juvenile it looks and how like goofy it is, but it is nonetheless a feast. And it tells the story of this girl named Ikuru who befriends a bashful war robot, which is the same robot from the intro of the movie, we've come to find out, which takes place 1,000 years after all the text in the beginning tells us. So like we get all this text and then it doesn't even matter because we're 1,000 years past that text. And we see the robot, and he's adorable, and he blushes all the time, and they go around bopping people on the head, and I don't really know what happens because it's only 25 minutes, and it's such a taste of what is to come. And then it just ends, and then the last 10 minutes of the movie are just behind the scenes of them, like, making the robot, and, like talking about it with, like, commentary. Like, it's a commentary track of them talking about making the robot and how they put fog machines everywhere, and it looks really cool. Set to like 80s like city pop music, and then it's over. And
That's so strange.
It's such a confusing experience, and it's so one of a kind. Like if you like 5-star stories or like old school like Noshka of the Valley of the Wind or just retro stuff in general, check out Dragon's Heaven because nothing is like it. It's not good, but it's so unique that it kind of is memorable just for that alone. So give that a shot if you if any of that sounds worth the price of admission. So I'm sure you can track it down somewhere.
Wait, so you get like a taste of a show and then it's the background of how it's made?
No, like it's a background of how, like, of them just like with that real life animatronic puppet robot and them just like in the studio, like moving the cameras around and like talking about the robot. Like it's not about how the anime was made. Like the anime is just like an afterthought to like this robot. I don't know what is going on or why, and I don't speak Japanese, and I'm sure that would help explain a lot of things. And there are subtitles, but like there's just so much that isn't subtitles. It's very funny. It makes me laugh just thinking about it. So hopefully that's.
Do you want to talk about? Sorry, do you want to talk about one that like you actually enjoyed?
Sure. So here's a short one, really short. This actually was recommended to me by Frigimon in the Discord. It's called Gakatsu. And Caroline, let me ask you this: do you like Raruko?
What's Raruko?
Ooh, you know who Raruko is. Well, I'll ask you this: do you like Please Take My Brother Away?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it though.
Do you like Agretzko?
It's good, yeah.
Well, this guy is the director and writer who's done all those shows. So
wow.
If you like Agretzko or Please Take My Brother Away or What is the Perfect Way to Eat Fried Eggs or any of his works, then you will like this show. This is a 5-minute show of this classroom in Japan where every episode a weird discussion point, a weird topic is brought up, and all the students in the class debate about it. And these topics include things like what do boys call their mom, or who gets the last piece of food when you're sharing it at a table, or how do you give up your seat to an elderly person on the train, like stuff like that. And it just kind of like Wasteful Days of High School Girls. It starts off with a simple concept and just explodes into arguments and big philosophical discussions. And it's very funny, and I definitely enjoyed it. And it's like a 5-minute watch each episode, so it's quick, easy, breezy, to the point. So if you like his other stuff, check this one out as well. It's called Gakkatsu. It's like Gakkatsu.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
That was a really important part you left out there.
It is. It is.
So I watched up to episode 15 of Jujutsu Kaisen. So I pretty much binged all of it. And a few episodes have come out that I haven't gotten to yet, but yeah, after hearing so much about it, I finally got started with it when I was out with COVID. So yeah, I mean, it was good. I was kind of surprised how I wasn't as grabbed by it as a lot of people were with the start of the show. But yeah, it's good.
Nice. I've only watched the 3 episodes from when I gave the impression on it, so I'm still far behind because I know if I watched it now, we would have to do a review of it in like a couple months, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, what the heck happened?
Yeah, you might as well just watch the first. You should just watch up to the first court, and then you'd be like, and then you have the basis down, and then you can just watch the second court.
Sure, but at this point, I gotta wait. That's how you keep all these takes fresh and hot and steaming and right out of the oven. If you watch them now, you kind of lose that luster.
But then you're a very tired oven, Nathan.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't want to be a tired oven.
I'm pumping hot takes out on the daily, so I don't got room for it right now. What have our listeners been watching? How about that?
We've gotten quite a few. So I asked the question on Twitter and Facebook if you would like to if you want to be if you want to find out when we get some comments from our listeners, then you can head over to our Twitter and or Facebook pages, which we ask people sometimes. So what have our people been watching? We got Paul O'Malley on Twitter, Wonder Egg Priority, and The Promised Neverland, but have also started on some of the backlog with Taiso Samurai and a rewatch of One Punch Man.
Some quality shows right there.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Have you ever seen Taiso Samurai? I never really heard of it.
I don't think so, unless it goes by. Oh, it's the Gymnastic Samurai one. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, so the one that I think you didn't pass that one, right?
I didn't pass it because that bird was so annoying.
It's all because of the bird.
It had potential, though. It was definitely a unique show that was going for that like Yuri on Ice Olympic styling of presentation.
We got Matthew R. Jobert, which he says same old, and he put a gif of Naruto.
Good thing Gorgorind Goku isn't having to watch that. Oh my goodness. Dodge that bullet. That shuriken, I should say.
Have you seen all of Naruto?
No, I've seen enough.
At Warmy Senpai says, they just finished all of K-On! Fantastic show and capped off my Naoko Yamada movies/shows.
Oh my goodness, so good, Wormy. You're a smart person.
Have not seen K-On! Yet.
It's so good. It's really good. It's probably my favorite Kyoto Animation show.
At Naiho Zappelli, they say Wonder Egg Priority and just caught up to the AOT manga and ReZero. They watched the Rohan OVAs and it just made me want part 6 animated more.
Yeah, Rohan just came to Netflix, I believe. So
I've not seen Rohan.
It's good, but I remember seeing in our Discord, I think someone was saying some of JoJo was leaving Netflix in March. So if you haven't watched JoJo, get on it now, stat pronto, please.
Nathan, I don't have time for JoJo right now.
One day you'll fall into that rabbit hole.
At Simmerer Down finally plunged into Haikyuu. And now onto Facebook, we got Nathan Davis saying, I've just been watching Wonder Egg Priority and really loving it. It's a lot of Wonder Egg Priorities here.
I was going to say, I love to hear it.
Ellie Francis says, I've been watching Kumo Deska Nanika, Jujutsu Kaisen, Kemono Jihen, Beastars, and Horimiya. So a lot of the best shows of the season right there.
Honestly, I haven't heard of anyone talking about Kemono Jihen. And that's a little surprising, a little not, but I feel like it was due for more like discussion on it. But oh well, maybe it's just my false like interpretations of how popular it was.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I haven't seen any of it yet, but I don't know. I'm interested in the plot of it, so maybe I'll eventually watch it sometime. I don't know if I would actually like it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. And the last one, Christian Cabrera says they've watched all of Initial D, just finished the 4th stage, finished Kids on the Slopes, and rewatched Nana.
He watched kids go down slopes and kids on slopes. That's that's his theme.
Basically, yes. I remember watching Kids on the Slopes for Anime Club, and unfortunately, I was a little disappointed. And I'm sorry for all those who love Kids on the Slopes, but it just wasn't for me. All right, and that was all that we got from our socials. So again, if you'd like to join us on Twitter or Facebook, please do. And then you can get involved next time as well.
Excellent. Well, this went well, I think. Thanks you all for sharing. And man, there's a lot of stuff I'll talk about next time we do one of these. We never have enough time. And spoiler alert, next time I'll be talking about Case Closed or Detective Conan, which has been on my to-do list for a while. So if you want to join my discussion next time, you can watch a couple episodes of that. But with that, I think we will jump on over and take our news break.
All right, so we have our weekly trivia question before that. Non, the illustrator for the Adachi and Shimamura light novels, also did the illustrations for what series that Kyoto Animation adapted? And you can find out the answer coming up.
Hello and welcome to MASO NBC News. Today is 2/21/21 and here is your news break. In movie news, a 30-second teaser trailer and visual of Mamoru Hosoda's new film was released. The film, called Belle, fully translated from Japanese as The Princess of Dragons and Freckles, will open in the summer of 2021. The film marks Studio Chizu's 10th anniversary and Hosoda's 8th feature film. His 2010 works consist of Wolf Children, The Boy and the Beast, and Mirai. In manga news, American publisher Viz Media announced many series that are getting a physical release this fall. Animal Crossings, Frieren, Mao, which is Rumiko Takahashi's latest, Pokemon Journeys, Burn the Witch, Kaiju No. 8, which I'm personally very excited for, Deserter, the new Junji Ito story collection, the Demon Slayer Complete series, which consists of all 23 volumes, and if you need more reading, One Piece Box Set No. 4, which consists of volumes 71 through 90. And finally, in meme news, Netflix revealed the final design for the titular King of All Monsters from the upcoming series Godzilla Singular Point, a 13-episode series done in collaboration between Studio Bones and Studio Orange, which will have an ending song by the must-listen band Polka Dot Stingray. Anyway, when looking at the design of this Godzilla, I've got one thing to say. Damn, that's a chunky lizard. Maybe it's just the angle of the image, with the tail coiling around it to fill up room, but it looks like an absolute unit. Well, that was our news break, and now back to the podcast, after a word from the big dog.
Anime Addicts, the AAA podcast, is always trying to bring you new and exciting ways to enjoy our content, and now we have an exclusive, member-only RSS feed on the site. that is going to let you access our hentai episodes, our Hobby Addicts, and our After Parties episodes all from your favorite mobile apps. That's an additional 8 episodes of content per month just for you, and you can listen to it through Apple Podcasts app, you can listen to it through Podcast Addicts, Pocket Cast, Overcast FM, Downcast FM, etc., onward and onward. So many mobile apps for you to choose from. If you were holding back on supporting the podcast because you didn't like listening to our extra content through our website, now you can get it and listen to it the same way you enjoy all your other podcasts. So pitch in, help out the podcast, do a good thing, and enjoy all the extra content we have for you. Just go to aaapodcast.com/join and you will get all this extra content and an exclusive member RSS feed for you to enjoy. That's aaapodcast.com/join and support the podcast.
この番組はの提供でお送りします。
Welcome back to the podcast. Before we left you, we had an in-show question, which was, Nan, the illustrator for the Adachi and Shimamura light novels, also did the illustrations for what series that Kyoto Animation adapted? The answer is Love, Chinibyo, and Other Delusions.
Ah, what a great show.
What a
My
great
favorite.
show.
And I keep on thinking about how you just described as Godzilla as a chunky boy.
Yeah.
Oh my god, me.
He's really thick in that image. I love it.
But also the fact that you were like really serious during that whole news break, and then you ended it with that.
It was all building up to the joke, which wasn't funny. But
Wait, you did that on purpose just for the joke?
Yeah, that's what you're going for. I was trying to get it really like bass boosted, but it sounded too bad, so I just went with like the really bad echo effect.
People were likening it to an NPR segment. Also, that Metal Gamer 1992 says Mason versus Godzilla coming to a theater near year. Could you take on Godzilla, Mason?
No way.
He's too much chunk.
No. He's too
much chunk for you.
I can't handle it. He's an absolute unit and is not to be trifled with.
Oh wait, did I make up that you said chunk and just thought about it, or you said? I know you said unit, but did you say chunk as well?
I think I called him a chonky lizard.
Okay.
I don't know. I recorded this a while ago. Anyway, speaking of absolute, actually, this is not a great transition. Anyway, moving on. Let's do some movie talk.
Get your popcorn ready. It's time for Unexplored Pictures with Mason.
I told you all I was going to do today was talk about anime. And in this episode of Unexplored Pictures, I want to talk about a recently released movie called Her Blue Sky. It came out in 2019. It's done by Studio Cloverworks, who has been, everything they did this past season we passed. The Promised Neverland Season 2, Horimiya, and Wonder Egg Priority. We're talking about all of them, so why not talk about them some more? So, Her Blue Sky is another collaboration by the production team called Team Super Peace Busters, which is such a great name. And it consists of director Tatsuyuki Nagai, writer Mario Kada, and character designer Masayoshi Tanaka, who are this collaboration unit is best known for doing Anohana, Anthem of the Heart, and Toradora. So some big name titles.
Absolute unit.
Exactly. They are a good unit. And honestly, this film is probably my favorite work of these creators in studio. I adored the characters, the visuals, the music, and it didn't descend too deep into the drama hole that Okada's works sometimes fall prey to. And essentially, this is the story of Best Girl, Aoi, who is an aspiring bass player who plans to move to Tokyo after high school. And essentially, she's often found practicing late into the evenings in this like hidden, dilapidated shrine temple a municipal building. I'm not really sure what it is, but she kind of hangs out in this public space and practices. And while practicing late one night, she encounters the ghost or spirit of Shino, a guitar player that Aoi's older sister used to date many years ago, like decades ago. And this was before an accident happened, and he kind of left in whatever manner you want to interpret that. And essentially, what follows the classic plot of this, like, resolving the lingering will and, like, dreams of this ethereal being so it can pass on. So essentially, you have this spirit of this guitar player from the accident when he was younger, and, you know, trying to resolve the relationship between that, or him, and the older sister, and kind of love triangles and music concatenations and all sorts of stuff happens. And it's a pretty basic formulaic plot that relies on magical realism and teenage angst to shoulder a lot of the burden, but at the same time, it knows what it is and carries it through really well during the 108 minutes that the movie runs. It's got really good pacing, and it just hits all the story beats at the right time, and it wraps up pretty well, providing you're willing to kind of go with the flow on the fact that there are magical elements at play. So I was unexpectedly surprised on how much it struck a chord with me, and I would give it a light recommendation to kind of anyone who's a fan of Mario Okada's works, likes music and anime, likes just great Cloverwork productions, and or likes any of the group's previous work. So if you're looking for a movie to try out that's pretty new, I recommend Her Blue Sky, and I thought it was a pretty good time.
How do you think it, like, compares to her other works, though? Like, do you think this was one of her better ones?
I mean, usually in a lot of her works, I love the setup of them. I love the initial premise of a lot of them. Anohana, Toradora, the one last year that I really enjoy with the O Maidens in Our Savage Seasons. And usually there's a point in a lot of her stories where I'm just like, I don't really jive with that idea or concept or how it shifted, or just a weird element where I'm just like, I could have gone without that. That was kind of not to my liking, not to my taste. And this one kind of maybe played a little bit safer than those, but because of that, all of those moments were either so minor that I was able to kind of just vibe with it, or weren't there at all. So I just, between really enjoying the main character, the prevalence of bass, and kind of, I've been practicing actually for the past month since seeing this movie, practicing one of the big, like, musical numbers that she performs on my bass. So, like, I've been listening to this almost every day because of that. So I think it's just a very solid and well put together, and for that I appreciate it. And it's just a good time.
Just a good time.
It didn't have any robotic puppet robots at the beginning with dramatic fog effects, but besides that, it was a pretty good movie. And,
so, shall we go on to our mailbag?
Yeah, let's see if I can do it right.
It's
You can do it, I
time
believe.
for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag.
I just realized I forgot to show the, like, little, like, I forgot to go to this screen, boop, when I was talking about the movie. That would have been nice. Anyway, back to, boop, mailbag screen. Okay.
You've been doing it pretty well, Mason. Don't worry.
Yeah, that was my first botch of the day. It's okay.
Okay, so let's head into our mailbag. If you'd like to submit a mailbag, please go to www.aaapodcast.com and hit the mailbag button, and you can ask us or just bring up a topic of discussion and we'll, read it out loud and we'll chit chat. Let's head into this one submitted by a man very simply called Rick. This is a question for everyone but Mitsugi. Sorry, Mitsugi. If you guys were hypothetically to choose a Japanese name to go by on the podcast like previous hosts did, what name would you have chosen? And honestly, it looks like Mitsugi was so offended that he was left out of this question that he did not show up today. So thanks a lot, Rick.
You scared him off.
And this was a really hard question because there are just so many names out there, and I always feel weird about choosing a foreign name for myself because I have nothing to do with that culture. But I don't know. I guess based on how my name sounds, a Kaori or a Kaoru would be a decent fit, I think. I mean, I also like Mai or May too, because, my birthday's in May. So I always like that as a name. So Mai or May would be nice.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's tough to, generate a new name for yourself. Our man,
Yeah.
our parents got it tough, especially because mine did such a great job. But like we've been introduced and we were like kind of known by our name, so like to think about how we would be presented otherwise at this point, it's like, oh, it's too late. Like we missed the
Yeah.
boat on it. Not saying we would even do it, but like had we had to, I'm sure it would have been easier at the time than thinking of one at the fact now. So
Yeah, especially when you go into maybe a foreign language class and your teacher sometimes will give you a name to go by in the class so you're more immersed in the language.
oh my
Um,
goodness, I just
I
got
always feel like
triggered by like
triggered.
not triggered. That's the wrong word for it. But like I was just hit by a wave of nostalgia, like remembering in like high school Spanish classes, like having to choose a Spanish name to like go by. I think I was Felix or something. I don't remember.
That's such a random
I don't
choice
know
for a guy
why.
named Ethan. My teacher always said that they were going to give us a Spanish name, but she just went with whatever slightly Spanish intonation you can put on a regular name. And mine was really easy because I would just be called Carolina.
Hmm.
And, that worked well enough. But yeah, when I went into my Chinese language class, I was given the name Kairu, which was always hard for me to say in the correct pronunciation. But yeah.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like Karu.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of what I also based it on. It's like, well, this one was Kairu in Chinese, and well, I guess Kaori or Kaoru would be a good fit in Japanese as well.
Yeah, that would. I could see it. I could see
Mhm.
it. See, I was a coward and just picked a Japanese name that is like super close to my current name. We could have just rolled it off and be like, oh yeah, that was always my name. You guys were just mispronouncing it. And I picked the name Misen, Misen, because it's named after Mount Misen, which is the tallest mountain on the island of Miyajima, which is, if you've ever seen pictures of the Itsukushima Shrine, which is like the very famous floating torii, where the singular massive torii is like in the water, just like ascending. It's a super famous picture, but this is on the island of Miyajima, which was like the first place that the AAA podcast went on our Japan trip. And like it was really cool. I remember like Facebook videoing my family from there, like, look it, I made it, I'm in Japan, wowza. And then like Mandy, Mitsugi, and I, like just the three of us, like hiked up part way up Mount Misen. So like it has like that kind of like, it's memorable in my mind for that. So, and it sounds obviously like
That's
Mason.
nice.
So that's my coward's answer. Not very interesting.
Mhm.
It's not something clever, but that's would I actually have gone by that? No, probably not. But that's my best estimate of if I, gun to my head, had to pick something now, I'd go with that. So
Yeah.
thank you, Rick, for the
Honestly,
mailbag.
Going off like a similar tangent, I always have had a hard time picking a name for different social media and like even like the Discord, trying to figure out what to call myself on there.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people use gamer tags they've used for years,
Yeah.
and I was never really a gamer. I never really was on Tumblr or anything like that. So I always go by Caroline, and I find that so frustrating because it sounds so bland and unexciting.
I mean, Mason is
Like we got
a little unique, like enough where there's not too many that I run into.
Yeah. But then we have people like Captain Avatar and Frigimon. And it's like,
Classics.
yeah.
The
It's
worst
like
is-
these kind of people. Is that like I'm wondering where you get the names from, and like how do you start off with that name? Because if I were to go onto our Discord and say like, hey, I'm going by this name now that I just randomly pulled out of a hat, it'd be so weird.
It's only weird when like you're thinking about it like that. But like when you meet people, and we've had tons of like, fan or, friend meetups where people use online handles and you're like, do I use your online name or real name? Like they both sound natural because it's just what you get acclimated to. So It's not as big as of a deal as we're making it out to be, but it is kind of fun to think about.
Yeah. Oh, I have
Well,
another tangent we can go off
no,
on,
do
but
it.
I don't
Do it.
want
I
to.
love tangents. Tangents. Let's do it.
Okay. So some of you may know that I'm a radio show host in the mornings. So a lot of radio show hosts don't go by their real names. I actually go by my middle name, which is Grace. Uh, but I've had so many, DJ names in the past because I had my shows on my college radio station and all that. And trying to pick one is so hard because you want to make it sound natural, but and also interesting. So yeah, but it was a big surprise to me when I found out that people don't normally go by their real names on the radio.
You didn't go with some like crazy like DJ Curly Q or something in the mornings, or like some like early 90s era edgy rock radio like name.
No, because you don't want the things that I've been taught by people in the business is like you don't want to be a jock voice. You don't want to go like
Yeah.
this and make things sound so. Then they have an actual word for that, like the what's it called? The tropey radio person's voice, basically. But maybe we should move on to the review part of the
Maybe.
episode, or what do we have? We have a couple announcements about listeners' choice, right?
I was just going to remind people, hey, people, it's up there. Website, aapodcast.com. You can leave your mailbags there. You can leave your topic suggestions there. And like I said, listener's choice, it's a big button. You hit it. You tell us the shows you want us to review in segments like this where we review shows. So, our review today is Adachi to Shimamura, or Adachi and Shimamura, if you don't want to translate that one word. This came out in fall of 2020. This was passed by Mandy on episode 549, and you can watch this show over on Funimation. So, synopsis, as I say, while I scroll down to read the synopsis, which is high schooler Adachi spends her school day skipping class until she meets fellow quote-unquote delinquent Shimamura, and the two quickly become friends. Cutting class and goofing off deepens their friendship, but soon romantic emotions emerge. So this is essentially a Yuri romance that falls in the same wheelhouse as Bloom Into You and Kase-san and the Morning Glories. So, with that said, this is done by Tezuka Productions and directed by Satoshi Kuwahara, who did the Blackjack series and actually did, since we talked about it, the Quintessential Quintuplet Season 1, but not Season 2, which I found interesting. And of course, Tezuka Productions did the Dororo remake, they did the Quintessential Quintuplets, and Kids on the Slope. So, a lot of stuff going on. What were your initial expectations going into this?
I actually didn't really know much about the show going into it. I mean, I wasn't here for impressions, so there's also that. But I kind of, by the title, I kind of figured it'd be a romance between these two characters. And that was basically it. I was kind of expecting to be similar to what it was, but I don't really actually watch that many romance shows. And when I do, like, it's not exactly my favorite, but yeah, I mean, it was like, I was pretty, I didn't really go in with a lot of expectations to begin with, actually.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I'm a pretty big fan of the writer Kenjiro Hada's previous adapted anime work, Ground Control to Psycho Electric Girl, which is quite a mouthful, which, despite many flaws, enough of that show landed with me, most notably the opening, which was like a cover of a Shinsei Kamate-chan song, and it had the generous coating of paint, which is kind of applied in the Shaft aesthetics that applies to kind of all the Shaft shows. So I like that show, but I didn't know if it was more for the visuals of it or just kind of how fun the writing was. So going into this, knowing it was by the same source material guy, I was hopeful but very uncertain on what kind of production Tezuka Productions would give us. So, with that said, spoiler-free recommendations. Caroline, would you recommend Adachi and Shimamura?
If you really like your romance shows, I suppose this would be a good pick. The thing is that it doesn't really do a lot of, amazing things with the genre. So if you're kind of tired of romance shows, this probably is not for you. If you're looking for a Yuri show that isn't just about the fact that a girl likes a girl, like, and the problems that arise with, being in a same-sex or wanting a same-sex relationship, then if you are kind of annoyed with that in any of these kind of shows, then this would be a good fit because it's not, it does normalize, having a crush on another girl. It's not the main issue, is, like, whether or not it's okay. So, yeah, I would say generally anybody who likes romance, who wants a same-sex relationship between girls and it not being just a strange, thing to deal with.
Yeah, yeah, good point. I thought the show was very well produced. The cinematography, the sound design, and visual composition were all really solid. This is a story of like introverts who have trouble connecting with peers on the sociable level. So like the arrival of a first love is extra taxing on their system, which kind of brings all parties to tumultuous waters. This is a classic slow burn, will they, won't they romance that finds a nice line, I think, between like the blossoming feeling of love and not like crossing too deeply into like a weird obsession where there's like stalking and stuff going on. So it does a lot of the fundamentals right. And if you've watched shows like this before, you already know if this is up your alley or not. And while it wasn't all bad and some of the characters were endearing, the best moments were kind of their inner monologues and not the actual show itself, because at the end of the day, this show is simply too indecisive to make any notable progress from where it begins, and it kind of means the entire show kind of feels lackluster because of it. And it's a fluffy show, but it's best enjoyed on a moment-to-moment basis that begins well, but like I said, just peters out into disappointment. So unless you already love the show, I can't recommend it. There's better Yuri out there, there's better romance out there, and it's only if you're already deep in that and want more that I would recommend this to someone. So with that, we've said our piece, and we will jump into...
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god.
Man.
There really isn't a lot of spoil with this show,
there really
to be honest.
isn't much to spoil, unfortunately. So...
Like, one of my gripes with the show is that definitely the plot did not feel like it was going very far. I'd say that the main difference between episode 1 and episode 12 is just Adachi's, I guess she did evolve a little bit in her feelings towards other people and figuring out what she wants, which is good, but that's basically it. And that doesn't even touch on Shimamura's evolving traits, which was kind of not very existent.
It started really well. Like, I actually enjoyed the show, I'd say, for the first three and a half episodes. Like, I was moving along well. Like, it really established the characters well. I just believed a lot of what was going on besides all the side character stuff, which we'll talk about later. But at like the midway point, the show just pulls on the e-brake and it just falters, and it just becomes Adachi being adamant to not do anything but wallow in embarrassment. And they spend all this time thinking about like horoscopes or chocolates or asking about Christmas gifts and scenes shopping for a present that just take eternity with no progress. And yes, in all those massive wastes of times, you do get moments with like this really wholesome air hockey scene where like Adachi is like postulating on how she can come to term with like accepting her past. And she's like, even though I don't like who I was, like everything in my past kind of brought me here with Shimamura, and like that justifies my whole existence. And like that's really nice. That like warms your heart. And if it didn't, like her flexing in victory and saying like, how about them apples, like will, like it lands its moments. But
yeah,
a mix of her like not really I don't know, like there's no dramatic miscommunications, which is good. I feel like that's what a lot of things fall into, where they see like their crush talking with someone else and they're like, they don't love me anymore, I'm misunderstanding, and like tailing out and my imagination's getting the worst of me. Like that's usually how these things falter, and I can't stand that. And this show,
there were a couple instances of that.
There were, but they were never major. It was more like they would be communicating, they'd be talking, but there's just these slight like different perceptions of events that are happening, which create those inevitable like cracks in their understanding of one another. And I feel like that's much more realistic. But the problem is like Adachi just can't make that step, and Shimamura is just so distant in herself that there's like this inconquerable divide. And I feel like more than plot, I think we should talk about characters if you want to do that.
Sure. So first of all, we have Adachi, who is a high school freshman at the beginning of the show. And she is pretty much the main character. We are following her more than Shimamura is. And she's also probably the most relatable in that she is really introverted. She doesn't really like hanging out with people a lot. Like even in the instances where she goes along with Shimamura and the two other friends, she is not entirely comfortable with it. And, I actually kind of like that. There are people out there that just don't really like social situations, even if so they're trying their best to remain within the loop of their classmates. And I like they kind of didn't really put pressure on the fact that like, oh, there's something wrong with her. She's not hanging out with people. So that's good. There was actually, I'll get up to that. I was going to say something, but I'm going to push that point to the side for a little while. And then we have Shimamura, who is the more sociable person, but she also isn't really crazy on the social situations. She just pretends better than Adachi. And she is the quote unquote sun for Adachi. She kind of lights up her world. Even though I kind of don't really see why. I'm so sorry if you are a big fan of Shimamura, but her character kind of brought in a lot of issues for me for this show, especially since she wasn't as relatable as Adachi, and it seemed more than not the show was about Adachi trying to confess to her, and Shimamura keeps on like thinking that she's just her friend, mostly because Adachi's really bad at explaining how she feels.
Really bad.
It's like every single episode, there is some sort of situation where she's trying to like build herself up to say something, and she gives a very watered down version of what she's trying to say, and it could be easily misunderstood as a friendship thing than a romantic thing, which was so frustrating because it was almost every single episode that something like this was happening. Yeah. And then so I was thinking by the last episode, we are finally going to get, okay, she has confessed. It is romance, not friendship that Shimamura is experiencing, or sorry, Adachi's feeling for Shimamura, and that Shimamura would understand. But there was no confession. There was not a moment that Shimamura found out that Adachi actually had romantic feelings for her. And that just irked the hell out of me.
Adachi, like the big resolution at the end of this, like after all these episodes, Adachi's big revolution at the end is she really believes like, no, I will try my best. I will button down the hatches, and I will continue to, not pursue or like obsess or chase after, because that's not quite the right word, but I will continue to have these feelings, harbor them for Shimamura, and one day I will present them to her, and we will, I will properly explain how I feel about her. And Shimamura, her big revolution is, Adachi will do until we eventually, our time is going to be up after high school. It'll pass the time. Like she made no step in the direction of kind of either to Adachi or to herself, like resolving this as anything more than a passing friendship. And I think a whole like a fortune teller like tells Adachi to her face, like, this whole issue would be resolved if you had guts. And I'm like, yeah.
And she's like, I'll get guts later, apparently.
Yeah.
And like, I'm okay with getting guts later is basically what the 12th episode was.
Now, to be fair, Adachi asked Shimamura what her favorite kind of chocolate was. And you know what the answer was?
What was the answer? I forget.
The answer was milk chocolate. Shimamura likes milk chocolate. And they go and get chocolates on Valentine's Day. And Adachi feeds Shimamura a piece of her chocolate. And know what kind she fed her?
Was it milk chocolate? Or sorry, white chocolate?
It was
wasn't
white
it?
chocolate, so that's why you didn't get the girl, my friend. You didn't hit all the story beats in your visual novel.
Yeah, I guess not.
Anyway,
So I was about to say that one of my other gripes was, I'm sorry, I'm talking about gripes. Unfortunately, this just wasn't the show for me.
hmm
I wish that they dealt more with Adachi's really unhealthy emotional attachments and Shimamura's problems with like forming meaningful relationships, because I feel like I don't know if the show itself realizes it, but Adachi's really kind of obsessing with Shimamura.
yes.
And I mean, okay, you have a crush on her, but that's literally all she ever thinks about is Shimamura. And if Shimamura were to, leave for some reason, to not be her friend anymore, for any reason at all, Adachi is in a lot of danger of just being super depressed.
And we don't even need to like guess about that. Like for one day, Shimamura ate lunch with some new like friends
Yeah.
in a class. And in that same classroom, Adachi's like, "Know what? I'm done," and just doesn't even go
she
to
went
school.
back.
Like she ate lunch with some friends, and that shut down Adachi. And I get that Adachi was always kind of a loner and by herself, and like Shimamura's presence in like the ping pong zone above the basketball, like that was her transformative moment. And I can see why she got that initial spark and like motivation to be her friend, but it definitely became a little too possessive, and Shimamura's dependent for her.
Yeah, even Shimamura calls her like possessive and kind of laughs at it.
Mhm.
But it's like, no, she is possessive. And like not in like she doesn't mean to be possessive in a bad way. It's just that that's like Shimamura is the only person in her life that she actually cares about. So if anything, God forbid, happened to Shimamura, Adachi is in a really awful situation. And that's not her fault, but she needs a little more than a friendship to kind of fix her problems. She needs like therapy.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. But yeah. Um
One,
you talk about something. I've talked quite a bit already.
I was going to say just hand wave, just brushing everything under the rug. I thought pretty much all the other characters in this were pretty insufferable. On one hand, you have Yachi or Chikama, the alien person who, okay, so she's clearly like an Easter egg call out to the main character of Ground Control, the author's previous work.
Oh gosh. That's the only reason why she's in there?
But I don't understand why she's an inclusion. Like an Easter egg is like a background character. We're like, hey, I recognize her. She's from that other thing. Yeah, cool. But she is like gets prevalent screen time, and she just forced drama, tonally ill-fitting. Like
she even forms a love triangle briefly, like in that one episode, the bowling episode.
And then she just
drops
drops out.
Triangle, and then I'm glad that it didn't actually happen. But
yeah.
I even had a point written down like, yeah, I really don't understand her purpose of being in the show. Because she is sometimes cute, but she's also sometimes annoying.
It's just doesn't fit with the show. And the other thing that fits a little bit better, but I still don't really enjoy, is the unnecessary fan servicey couple of Nagafuji and Hino.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what they were doing there. They're either there to entice the audience and be like, look this is the relationship you want to see with Adachi and Shimamura, right? Like this is an established relationship. Wouldn't it be great if Adachi had this? That'd be cool. Or maybe they're just trying to normalize the lesbian relationship and be like, look, it's a thing, it's common, it's not that wild or obscure. Like this is a thing. Or maybe they're just like, you know what? People came to the show to watch Yuri, and they're not getting it with Adachi and Shimamura. So let's just give them these like fan servicey moments. And overall, the camera in the show was very fan servicey.
They loved the legs.
They loved. Listen, if you have an affinity for legs, this is your show, because almost every camera shot lingered on the edges of skirts or moments like that. So
at least there were no panty shots. I can't say how happy I was. I did not see a single panty shot in this show.
yeah.
Which they could have done so often. So many times they were looking at the legs and like as they were squat down in the gym, and the skirt somehow, it's a really small skirt, but it somehow covers up everything. It's not physically possible, but I'm glad I didn't have to see any.
Sure, but then you also had this other couple who all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Let's just have them take a bath together and just rub up on one another and just go at it. And it's like there was no setup. Like I didn't know why we were being shown that other than, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if wow, like look at wow, amazing, right? Okay, back to these two characters who are in this like toxic, weird, dependent relationship that doesn't go anywhere. Like the best part about the show is that there are a lot of headbutts. Like you can't say you're in a relationship with someone unless you've accidentally bonked heads. First comes headbutts, then head pats, then hand holding, and then as the show said, awkward non-confessions, and nothing happens. So
Yeah. I mean, I can understand there being like quite a bit of fan service, but it didn't bother me as much because there's so much worse they could have done. So while yes, they put a lot, like I think the worst thing was that one friend squeezing the other girl's boobs quite too often, but it's weird, but certainly not as bad as I could have expected. So I was happy with that.
fair enough. I mean, visually, I would say overall the show was solid. Like the visual metaphors were pretty good. There was a lot of great blushing, some neat color palettes, and every once in a while some subtle character movement and quirk. But animation-wise, it was pretty poorly done. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a persistent trend where every time like a character would turn not every time, I should say, sometimes when a character would turn their head or widen their eyes or raise their arms or crack a smile, there would be this weird like transition where it like happened too slowly and you would see the frames like superimposed on top of one another for like an uncomfortably long time. Like episodes 4, 5, 8, 9, like multiple episodes had this weird, I don't know, Donnie Darko like extra body parts on screen at once, and it looked really bad. And I can probably find a thing to show you, but just believe me that sometimes the show looked really bad in the movement. And I didn't get why they letterboxed sometimes. It wasn't tasteless, but it didn't do much either.
Yeah, I don't quite know what you're talking about, but I mean, yeah, if you want to send it to me and I'll see.
It's whatever. It's a small thing, but it just visually the show looked good for most of the time when it really didn't need to, but then it failed at some other moments, and who cares at this point?
Speaking of, I wouldn't call it fan service. This actually, it kind of is fan service. The realization that some animators have, like, oh my gosh, they have lips, let's make them lips, and then the next shot they don't have lips, and they make the lips super like moist looking and shimmery, and it's so weird. But it'd be fine if they constantly had lips, but they don't. So yeah. And it's not even like in romantic spots that they remember they have lips. They just go on into a close up of their lips and then like
pretty much. Music wasn't super memorable, but it was well fitting. I thought the OP was very skippable.
Yeah, it was okay. But I did skip it quite often.
Yeah. Any other things you want to bring up? I mean, honestly,
I have a couple actually.
Yeah, no, go for it.
In addition to Yashiro kind of being useless, that girl Tarumi was pretty useless too. I didn't understand why she was there in the show.
I was expecting like, the arrival of the rival character and like, her forcing Shimamura to really assess what she cares about or who she cares about would force Adachi to be like, no, I've got to stake my claim, defend my turf, and like that, component. And it really didn't happen. It's more like, yeah, we're friends and clearly there's something there. Maybe the light novel goes somewhere, but a lot of
I guess
characters were just brought in and nothing really happened. At least she got a little bit of involvement in screen time and kind of more. She kind of showed how disconnected Shimamura is, and like she kind of didn't even remember her name at first or didn't harbor any of the same emotions. So she's kind of always been off from.
Yeah, even Tarumi is obsessive with Shimamura, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just in a very strange way. She's like even changing her personality to be what she thinks is more appealing to Shimamura as she is now. Which is like, no, that's not how friendships work. You don't just change something to make yourself more appealing to a friend. Like, and they know about it. Like she even says, like, listen, I know that I'm gonna like be a little more enthusiastic for you because apparently I think that's what you like better, right?
Yeah.
And even that's weird. So yeah, even she was supposed to be kind of Adachi's rival in this situation, but they meet once, and Adachi doesn't even know that Tarumi is Shimamura's friend.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was, and she must have some sort of purpose in the light novels or something.
She's just there to tell Shimamura, hey, you got hot, you got big, you got, and so okay, like, don't you mean I just grew up? Like, let's not go that far. But it's,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So, and also, episode 4. What's the deal with the literal teenaged pedophile? I need to talk about this, Mason.
Do it. Let it out. Let the hate
Okay,
flow
so
through
do you remember the teenage pedophile?
I don't. Like I said, I watched episodes 1 through 5 months ago, back when I thought, oh, this show's not going to pass. And then it passed, and I was like, I don't really want to go through that again. But explain it to me.
Okay, so episode 4 comes around. We get Chimamura in a bathing suit at the YMCA, basically. So she's working out. Her mom's there too in the different room. And she's in the swimming pool. She gets out of the swimming pool, and we see this teenage boy kind of, doing the typical pervy anime boy things, kind of like, oh, I'm so glad I came to the pool. And at first I'm like thinking that he's lusting over some girls his age, which is gross and I hate it, but it's not something I haven't seen before and I kind of expect it from anime at this point. But no, the camera pans to a group of like 8-year-olds, like little kids.
Yeah.
And he's
Nosebleed.mp4.
And Shimamura looks at him and she looks disgusted, but then she walks away. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Are you not going to go to an adult and get this pedophile out of here? And that's it. So what was the point of putting a teenage pedophile in a room with little kids in this show that's not about that? I don't get it. Mason, I don't
so
get
much
it.
of the show was wasting time from the romance, and then when the romance happened, it was a romance with excessive air quotes around it because it could barely have been called that. Like, it failed on so many fronts.
Yeah.
And it started off good. I genuinely was like excited for the show coming back to it. Big sad.
Actually, in connection to episode 4, because that one I do remember it being like a scene with Shimamura, and she actually meets Adachi's mom in the steaming room or whatever, the sauna, whatever it's called. And that also was really strange too, because she's like, she realizes that it's Adachi's mom. And Adachi and her mother has a really difficult relationship. Her mom's not apparently not really around, doesn't really know much about her daughter, but she, provides for her, and she's not like I mean, I suppose like she could be around more, but she's working, parents got to work. And she hears Adachi's mom over like talking to this other woman about like kind of like her troubled relationship with her daughter or whatever. And Shimamura has the gall to like, as a random stranger, a random girl, like, I don't know much about your daughter, but you're not doing well enough as a mother. And I'm like, yeah, there are certain situations that, definitely parental abuse is a definite thing, but she's not nearly as bad of a person to have this random teenage girl call her out, and she doesn't even know this woman. Like, she doesn't know anything about the relationship. So how dare she like come into this situation and this conversation that she has nothing to do with and criticize this woman that she doesn't know? Sorry.
No, she was regretting that she didn't stand up for the the pedophile guy, and she's like, I gotta stand up now, and it's not called for.
And then she like makes the mom like go into a bet if whoever can stay the longest in the sauna, and if Shimura can stay the longest in the sauna, then the mom has to go out and try hard. And apparently this works. And I'm like, what? Why did the mom have any reason to take on this bet? And why did she? I don't get it. Because honestly, I was kind of on the mom's side because she was kind of being framed as the villain in this situation. It's like, you know nothing, little girl. And I'm like, you're right. She knows nothing.
The sauna challenge is like such an ingrained trope that I was just like, they needed to fit it in somehow.
Yeah, I guess.
Such is life.
And yeah, that was basically it on my list of things to talk about.
Nice. Yeah, I think ending, final, closing thoughts is just started off strong and just continued to disappoint episode after episode the more it dragged on. The charm of each character is as much as I like them each having their own like inner thoughts so we could see what they were thinking, and I thought the voice acting was very realistic. Like, I think the performances were really well done, but just I don't know, it just
got to the
fell
point
apart.
where it got to the point where I've seen so many scenes of Adachi not being able to have a natural conversation with Shimamura. I'm like, why do these two hang out again?
It became
'Cause,
very
like,
stiff.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's just because she has a very awkward time with trying to explain her feelings, but it just got so uncomfortable to watch sometimes.
Yep, for sure. Well, that was our review. Hopefully you agree
I
with
hope
it.
that I didn't hurt people's feelings over the show.
No. Everyone's got their own tastes and opinions, and if you like the show, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully there's other stuff in the genre you like, and that just wasn't to our liking. But with that, I think we did it. I think we did it, everybody. That was a fun show. Hopefully we gave you some recommendations of good shows to watch. Let us know if you check any of them out. Closing thoughts. Follow us on Twitter, podcast at AAA Podcast. Caroline at AA Podcast, because it's one and the same. Mitsugi's at Pope Mitsugi, Mandy's at MandyXMandy, I'm at Macy Pacey. Facebook, we have all sorts of stuff going on. Discord, we have even more stuff going on. Most importantly, Manga Club is going to be February 17th. We'll be reading volumes 1 through 2 of Sweat and Soap.
Dude, February 17th was this week.
Past.
Yes, it's in the past.
I forgot to update it. I am a dummy. Let me see. I'm gonna play this while I roll on over to.
How about I talk about Anime Club?
You do both. You do both.
I don't know what's happening in Manga Club. I don't go to Manga Club.
Well, you have to look it up in the pin notes because my entire thing is gonna break down.
Oh my
otherwise.
goodness. Oh my goodness. And now I'm feeling like, no, don't drown me out with the music. Anime Club, February 24th, Penguin Highway, 10 p.m. EST. Please come to it. Oh, where'd the music go?
I paused it for
Oh,
you.
amazing. Now it sounded like I was shouting.
Okay, we'll try it again. Here we go. From the top.
No,
Anime
no.
Club. Now go.
Oh, too much pressure. Anime Club on February 24th. We are going to be talking about the movie Penguin Highway. It's a very good movie. It was my pick, so please come to it. 10 p.m. EST.
I think Manga Club's doing Komi Can't Communicate on February something. Check it out. Discord, do it. AA Podcast. We're talking Arc, Last Crusade, and Rise of the New World. Oh, we'll see you next week, everyone.
Nathan?
Have a good
What's happening?
one. Bye. Bye.